The relationship between Morgoth and Sauron is often described in simple terms of master and servant, but the deeper lore reveals something more complex, a bond defined by influence, imitation, divergence, and ultimately transformation. Their connection is not merely hierarchical, but philosophical. Sauron is shaped by Morgoth's rebellion, yet he does not replicate it entirely. Instead, he inherits, adapts, and refines his master's vision of domination. To understand their relationship, one must look not only at what Sauron learned from Morgoth, but also what he rejected, and how the shadow of Morgoth continued to define Sauron long after the first Dark Lord was cast into the void. Before we begin, the best way to help us keep creating videos is to become a channel member down below, where you'll get access to new videos early. You can become a member for just $1 a month and we'll never ask you for anything else. Any support helps us immensely to keep creating for you, and as a promise and a thank you, we'll keep creating daily content for you. In the earliest account of their association, preserved in the Valaquenta of the Silmarillion, Sauron is introduced as one who, in the beginning, was of the Mire of Aule, and this origin matters profoundly. Aule is the Valar of craft, structure and making, concerned with order and substance. Sauron's initial nature is therefore aligned with organisation and design, rather than chaos. His fall is not born from a desire to destroy the world, but from an attraction to efficiency and control. He turns to Morgoth not because he shares Morgoth's metaphysical hatred of creation, but because Morgoth's overwhelming power appears to offer the means to impose order upon it. This distinction defines the character of their relationship from the outset. Morgoth is not simply a teacher, he is an object of awe. His presence represents a scale of power beyond anything Sauron has encountered. In the mythology of the Ainur, Morgoth, originally Melkor, is the greatest in might and knowledge of all the Valar. His rebellion against Ilúvatar reshapes the music of the Ainur itself. To a being like Sauron who values structure and mastery, such power would appear irresistible. And yet the relationship is not grounded in loyalty in any moral sense. Sauron does not serve Morgoth out of devotion. His allegiance arises from admiration for Morgoth's capacity to dominate. Tolkien suggests in various writings, including those collected in Morgoth's Ring, that Sauron's fall stems from impatience with the perceived inefficiency of the Valar's governance. Morgoth offers decisive action, the promise of absolute control, and for Sauron that is compelling. I sometimes find it revealing that Sauron's corruption begins with the desire for order. There is something unsettling in that origin. He does not initially seek evil for its own sake. He seeks to impose a vision of harmony, and Morgoth becomes the means through which that vision seems achievable. It gives their relationship a strangely pragmatic quality. During the First Age, Sauron serves as one of Morgoth's greatest lieutenants, ruling the fortress of Tol in Galroth, the Isle of Werewolves, and acting as a commander and sorcerer in Morgoth's wars against the elves and men. Yet even in that role, Sauron's methods differ from those of his master. Morgoth relied on overwhelming force, terror, and the corruption of matter itself, but Sauron employed deception, strategy, and psychological domination. The episode of Beren and Luthien in the Silmarillion illustrates this contrast vividly. When Sauron confronts them, he does not simply attempt to destroy them, he seeks to dominate them through sorcery, through control of shape and will. He engages in a contest of power that reflects his concern with mastery rather than annihilation. Morgoth, by contrast, embodies brute oppression. His presence is crushing, absolute. This difference does not diminish Sauron's role within Morgoth's regime. He functions as an extension of Morgoth's authority, executing policies of domination and overseeing the mechanisms of control. If Morgoth represents the overwhelming force of tyranny, Sauron represents its administration. Their relationship resembles that between a revolutionary force and a bureaucratic structure that sustains it. Yet Morgoth's dominion is unstable. His power, as Tolkien later explains, is dispersed into the substance Oada itself. He pours his native strength into the physical world, seeking to corrupt and control it entirely. And this process leaves him diminished as an individual being. By the end of the First Age, Morgoth is less formidable in personal combat than he once was, bound to his fortress and increasingly dependent upon his servants. Sauron witnesses this decline. He observes the consequences of Morgoth's method of domination. The Master's attempt to control everything results in the dissipation of his own strength. This observation becomes one of the most defining influences in Sauron's later evolution. When Morgoth is defeated in the War of Wrath and cast into the Void, Sauron does not follow him. Instead, he submits briefly to the judgment of the Valar, though he soon returns to Middle-earth. This moment reveals much about their relationship. Sauron's loyalty was conditional. He did not share Morgoth's absolute defiance. His primary commitment is to the exercise of power, not to Morgoth personally. I find this moment fascinating because it suggests that Sauron's service was never entirely ideological. Morgoth is a means, not an end. Once Morgoth is gone, Sauron does not abandon the pursuit of domination. He continues it, reshaping it according to his own philosophy. In the Second Age, Sauron emerges as an independent Dark Lord. His methods reveal both continuity and divergence from Morgoth's legacy. He inherits Morgoth's desire for universal domination, but rejects his master's strategy of diffused corruption. Instead, Sauron seeks centralized control. He constructs systems, forges alliances, and ultimately creates the One Ring to concentrate his power. This shift represents a profound reinterpretation of Morgoth's example. Where Morgoth dispersed his essence into the world, Sauron concentrates his essence into an object. Where Morgoth seeks to corrupt the substance of creation, Sauron seeks to dominate the wills within creation. The relationship between master and servant becomes a process of transformation. Tolkien's Letter 131 provides insight into this dynamic, describing Sauron as a lesser but more focused manifestation of the same impulse towards domination. Morgoth represents a cosmic rebellion, Sauron represents a political tyranny. The latter grows from the former but develops its own character. Their differing attitudes towards creation further illuminate their relationship. Morgoth desires to rival Ilúvatar, to create life independent of divine authority. His corruption of beings such as orcs and his breeding of monsters reflect this ambition. But Sauron, by contrast, shows little interest in creation. He prefers manipulation and control of existing structures. His works, rings, fortresses, systems of surveillance, reflect the mindset of an engineer rather than a creator. And this divergence suggests that Sauron learned not only from Morgoth's strengths, but also from his failures. Morgoth's obsession with creation leads to frustration and waste. Sauron focuses instead on efficiency. He seeks results, not a cosmic authorship. Yet Sauron never fully escapes Morgoth's influence. The world he inhabits is already marred by his master's corruption. The concept of Ard Mard ensures that Morgoth's legacy persists even after his defeat. Sauron operates within a world shaped by Morgoth's rebellion. His rise is possible precisely because Morgoth has weakened the moral and physical fabric of creation itself. In this sense, Sauron becomes the inheritor of Morgoth's shadow. He does not replace Morgoth so much as continue his work under new condition. The relationship between them extends beyond personal association to a historical continuity. I sometimes think of Sauron as living within the ruins of Morgoth's ambition. He inherits a broken world and seeks to organize it. Morgoth destroys, and Sauron administers the aftermath. Their differing approaches to domination also shape their relationship with followers. Morgoth rules through fear and overwhelming force. His servants obey because resistance is impossible. Sauron, however, constructs hierarchies of control. The Nazgûl enslaved by the Nine Rings represent a system of structured authority. Sauron's dominion is more stable, more organized. and this distinction reflects the broader evolution of evil in Tolkien's legendarium. Morgoth embodies primordial chaos, and Sauron embodies institutional tyranny. Their relationship marks the transition between these forms. And there is also the psychological dimension to their connection. Morgoth's rebellion is rooted in pride and envy, a desire to rival the creator. Sauron's fall arises from a desire for order and control. The former is metaphysical, the latter is administrative. Sauron's service under Morgoth exposes him to a model of absolute power, but he adapts that model to his own temperament. The difference becomes especially apparent in their attitudes towards destruction. Morgoth seeks to unmake the world when he cannot possess it fully. Sauron seeks to preserve the world under his rule. He desires stability, permanence, and control. This fundamental divergence reveals that Sauron is not merely Morgoth's continuation, but his reinterpretation. And yet Sauron never achieves Morgoth's scale of power. He remains a Maya, a lesser being. His authority derives not from inherent supremacy, but from the instruments he creates. The One Ring compensates for his lesser nature. Morgoth requires no such device. This hierarchy underscores the complexity of their relationship. Morgoth is greater in origin, broader in scope, but less disciplined. Sauron is lesser in nature, but more focused. Their bond reflects a tension between magnitude and precision. The narrative of The Lord of the Rings reinforces this contrast by presenting Sauron as the central antagonist of the later ages, while consistently acknowledging Morgoth as the source of original evil. Characters speak of Morgoth as a distant, almost mythic presence, while Sauron represents the immediate threat. The Master recedes into cosmic history, the Servant dominates historical experience. This narrative structure mirrors the evolution of their relationship. Morgoth establishes the conditions of corruption, and Sauron exploits them. The former shapes the world, and the latter governs it. And there is something strangely human in this progression. The first rebellion is vast and catastrophic, altering the structure of existence. The later tyranny is more familiar, more recognizable. Sauron's rule resembles political domination, systemic oppression, and the regulation of thought and behavior. Morgoth's ambition is too immense to replicate directly. Sauron adapts it to the scale of history. I often find myself reflecting on whether Sauron ever truly understood Morgoth's deepest motives. Morgoth seeks to rival the creator, to possess the flame imperishable. Sauron never pursues such transcendence. His ambition remains within the world. He seeks mastery, not authorship. And this suggests a limitation in their relationship. Sauron serves Morgoth, learns from him, and continues his work, but he does not share his ultimate vision. The Master's rebellion is cosmic, the Servant's is temporal. The more one examines their connection, the more it appears as a process rather than a static hierarchy. Morgoth shapes Sauron, and Sauron adapts Morgoth's example, and the legacy of their relationship defines the history of Middle-earth across ages. Their bond is not merely one of service but of transformation, an evolving expression of domination that begins with a cosmic rebellion and settles into a systemic control. And even as Morgoth proceeds into the void, his influence persists through the will of a servant who learned from him, reshaping the world according to principles inherited and altered. And the study of their relationship reveals not a single shadow, but a lineage of shadows, unfolding across time, never entirely resolved. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and hype the video in the comment section below, subscribe, and check back for daily videos. The best way to help us keep creating videos is to become a channel member down below, where you'll get access to new videos early. You can become a member for just $1 a month and we'll never ask you for anything else. Any support helps us immensely to keep creating for you. This archive has now been fully decoded. Continue your journey into the librarian with the video displayed on screen. The vast wealth of the archives continues to reveal new knowledge of the history of the Tolkien universe. Nalua Gavanadvan, until we meet again.